Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Live TV Ratings Talk. I'm Brandon Thurston, broadcasting live from Buffalo, New York, where today is... Did I say Wrestlenomics Radio again? No, I said Live TV Ratings Talk. Today is February 17th. It's a Thursday. It is 20 years to the day since Kenta Kobashi made his return from double knee surgery at the Nippon Budokan to team with Mitsuharu Misawa against Jun Akiyama and Yuji Nagata. But we will not be talking about that today. No. We will be talking about an abysmal rating for AEW Dynamite on TBS last night. 869,000 viewers. 0.31 in the demo. That is the lowest total viewership since December 1st. That is the lowest demo rating since December 15th. Just to jump around right off the bat, Raw this week preempted on Syfy. Beat Dynamite in every demo. As of late, Dynamite has been beating Raw in some demos, usually, especially men 18 to 49, men 35 to 49. Raw has had trouble keeping up with Dynamite. But not this week, despite Raw being in preemption. So we've got an 84% edge for Raw in total viewership, 42 in the demo. But anyway, let's talk about the Big Bang Theory, the most powerful lead-in in all of wrestling currently, probably, is the Big Bang Theory, which airs every Wednesday night at 7:30. A whole block of Big Bang Theory episodes air before Dynamite hits the air on TBS. And this week, the Big Bang Theory did its... So it's been, let's see, how many weeks here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the seventh week for Dynamite on TBS. Big Bang Theory has done anything before this week between a .42, a massive .42, and a .31. This week did a .27. So the lead-in was weaker than usual. Actually, in total viewership, it was pretty normal. But I don't think the lead-in alone can explain the low rating this week. Here are the quarter hours for Dynamite last night on TBS. Opening with 944,000 viewers. No quarter averaged 1 million. That is the peak. The first quarter is the peak, as it usually is lately with the strong lead-in from the Big Bang Theory. Ending at a low point in the final quarter at 785,000 viewers. So the trend of this show is it settles down into Q2, which what did Q2 contain? The Lee Moriarty and Bryan Danielson match. The demo settled down as well, and then the demo grew and actually peaked in the third quarter. That largely included the live promo between Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley, as well as part of the Wardlow and Max Caster match. From there, it's, especially in the demo, it's a slow decline. There's a little bit of growth here in the latter part of the second hour, going into the very early part of the second hour in total viewership. But from that peak point, in quarter three, again, the live promo between Moxley and Danielson, every quarter afterward is a little bit lower and a little bit lower. And at the very end, it's just 1,000 viewers lower, but lower in the demo. So the main event of Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara not scoring any points with this number. 785,000 total, 367,000 in the demo. If we take these two extremes, I know people are probably more familiar with the demo ratings. So if we convert these two this high and low point here, 454, and divide that by 13, by that denominator, we get a 0.35. So this peaked, as a quarter hour anyway, it peaked at 0.35 in the demo, and its floor, 367, it went as low as a 0.28 in the demo. Those last 15 minutes, averaging a 0.28 in the demo. I would think that that second to last quarter rather, probably the same if we divide that by that number, a 0.28 as well, because these viewer counts are so similar that they come out to the same demo rating. So, total viewership through the part of the yeah, I guess, right? No, because that Jericho and Hager versus Santana Ortiz match basically encompassed pretty neatly the first 15 minutes of the second hour, that 9 to 9:15 slot, and that did see total viewership growth as the quarter before it did, which was the second part of the Wardlow, which I've misspelled in here, Wadlow, the Wardlow and Caster match, the second part of that, the Britt Baker with Mercedes Martinez promo, a full ad break, and then the live promo with Adam Page and Adam Cole. So some growth in those quarters in total viewership, but declines in those quarters in the demo. We've got a different breakdown here as well. This is on Patreon right now for subscribers. I expect / hope to have the full demo breakdown as usual across, I don't know, some 6 or so other demos. But this just kind of shows more or less what I just said. The strongest quarter for growth was Q3 with the live promo between Moxley and Danielson. That is in the demo, 12% gain in that quarter from the prior quarter. 3% gain in total viewership is the most sequential growth that any quarter had, and that was for the last quarter of the first hour. That included the Adam Page and Adam Cole live promo, as well as the Britt Baker, Mercedes Martinez backstage promo, and the second half of Wardlow versus Max Caster. So, not a good number, not something that can really be explained, not fully by the Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory did provide the weakest demo lead-in so far. Total viewership, though, was pretty normal. 1.339 million in total viewership, which is, you know, a little bit higher than 2 weeks ago and better than last week. I think I've got my numbers transposed here. In fact, let me check on something. So let's see. Last week, I do have my numbers transposed here. So I'm sorry for that. So ignore that. I'll fix that. But this is it for the demo. It's just those two numbers that need to be switched. Let's see here. If I open my Ratings Ryan spreadsheet, I think I'll be able to fix this. Maybe I do have it correct in here. No, I don't. Okay. So, as this runs a background query. Sorry for the delay. But, while that's thinking about it, actually, there we go. 1339, 1133. There we go. And that should fix this, which we can paste in here, I think. So there we go. So that was, in terms of, correction to what I said earlier at the beginning of this stream, this was the lowest in terms of total viewership for the Big Bang Theory lead-ins. 1.1 million, which is substantially lower than any of the other, what is it, 6 episodes? So that have, up to this point, have not gone below 1.3 million. And it was the lowest in terms of the demo also. I don't think that we can really point to competition here. Dynamite, by the way, ranked number 3 among cable originals. It was beaten by the NBA games that were on ESPN, that are always on ESPN. The early game and the late game. The early game went head-to-head with Dynamite. 0.42 in the demo, 0.44 for the late game. The late game is the Lakers and the Jazz, I believe, and the early game is the Knicks and the Nets. These look like normal numbers to me for the NBA. South Park was on against Dynamite last week also. South Park just a hair below what Dynamite did, a 0.30 in the demo. Again, Dynamite doing a 0.31 in the demo. So, Guys Grocery Games down here at number 20. This is a similar chart, but it includes broadcast programming, including the Winter Olympics on NBC, which didn't do great ratings. 1.22 in the demo, which is the leader among TV on the night by far. 6.9 million viewers, but it's not. It's done better ratings in the days prior. If I look at my sheet over here, which let's look at a different view here. And let's get myself out of the way. If we look at, let's say, what happened on Tuesday night. On Tuesday night, the Olympics did a 0.15 and 8.7 million viewers. Again, this one doing a 0.22, 0.69. So last night, what NXT had to contend with in terms of Olympics competition was a lot tougher than what Dynamite had to contend with. So, not especially strong competition. Not unusually strong. In fact, if I go back to this sheet, I track the volume of TV viewership that we can extract based on what we see from Showbuzz Daily. And that's what's being represented in this column chart here. So what we've been seeing lately on Wednesday nights from the hours of 8 to 9 is a gradual increase in the volume of television viewership overall. This was more than at any time in the past. I think this is an 8-week picture here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9-week picture. This was at the highest point in these 9 weeks in the demo. Not so much in terms of outside the demo. I don't think competition can really be chalked up to here as a strong excuse for why this number for Dynamite was so low. By the way, if you have a comment or question, feel free to put it into the super chat, and I will try to answer your question. We already have Tim B asking a question here. Is it a relevant question, or should I wait until the end? Tim B writes, with AEW being number 1 last week and still number 3 this week, with this big drop, was overall TV down yesterday? I think as I just explored, no, it wasn't. This seems odd for last night's show. TV overall was not down last night. And there's different ways that one could read a chart like this that tries to measure. Now, this doesn't include reruns, but this does include all the cable originals, 150 of them from Showbuzz Daily. And it includes usually something around 10 broadcast primetime telecasts. And actually, I should say this is not 150. This is only the programs between 8 to 10, which is not all 150, but it's a lot. And so sometimes you could look at a chart like this and say, oh, wow, when it was exceptionally high, that means there's a lot of competition. Or if it's exceptionally low, which is what we see sometimes on holidays, then that might mean that there weren't a lot of people choosing to do the behavior watching TV on that occasion because of some external event, like a holiday. But neither of those possible excuses, if you will, appear to be happening here. This looks like a fairly normal TV night. Yeah, there was the Olympics, but the Olympics aren't hitting a home run this year in any way. So there's that. That's Dynamite. Median age was pretty old. We've been seeing this slow escalation, by the way, of the median age in Dynamite viewers. I believe we discussed this last week too. If we look at this gray number, which is 46 back here where I'm hovering my mouse, 46, and the week after that is the first week on TBS too, because I checked that last week. 47 the following week, second week. Third week, 47 is the median age for Dynamite. The next week, it's 48. The next week, it's 49. The next week, it's a little bit higher in 49, getting towards 50. And this week, 50. 50.3, I believe. So I don't know what that means, if anything, but the median age is getting older. Usually, the higher your median age is, Usually it coincides with your demo not being as strong, I guess, relative to the total viewership overall. But yeah, um, let's see what we could look at too is what groups of people, at least across age and gender, were not watching in uh, disproportionate numbers relative to overall. Because if we look at this episode versus the last 28 days, which is for the last 4 weeks of Dynamite, we've got an 18% negative difference. So about 18% of the people who usually watch Dynamite in the last 4 weeks were not watching Dynamite in the last 4 weeks, or at least in those numbers. Demo down 24% by that comparison. 18 to 34 down 32% by that comparison, which flies in the face of what I would have expected. The Cody Rhodes news, I think, if anything, would have coincided with an increase in curiosity and interest. You know, when the report came out a few weeks ago, and Cody did appear on the show, and maybe that's the key. When Cody did appear on the show, and he cut this live promo in the ring, this sort of rambling promo, going all over the place, saying all sorts of things. That week did do a good number, and there had been a news story earlier, I don't think in that day, but in the day before on the Tuesday, about the fact that Cody was working without a contract. That coincided with Dynamite doing a better than usual number. I don't know what the date was off the top of my head, but I vividly remember that week doing a pretty good number, seeming to coincide with curiosity because of the news. This week also had a very big news story. Cody Rhodes leaving AEW, probably going to WWE. No curiosity bump in this week. And I stopped as we were looking at 18 to 34 because that's the age group that I would hypothesize that we usually see. And I want to say I've seen evidence of that in the past where we see if there's news-related curiosity, it's usually the younger viewers that are more positively impacted. Total opposite here, where we've got the older half of the demo down 20%, the younger half of the demo doing worse, down 32%. Men and women here inside the demo, pretty similar. Men 18 to 49 down 21%, women down 25%. So I don't know. We do have some discrepancy here with in the 35 to 49 age group, where that group in men is down 14%, in women it's down 24%. I don't know if that means anything. The demo, of course, that held up the best was P50 Plus, down just 6%. So, yeah, I don't see any great story here where there's like, oh yeah, well, women were watching such and such, or men were watching the sports. I don't see a really distinct story here. In the younger half of the demo, female viewers did tune out at a higher rate, nearly half of them. This demo tends to be more volatile because the volume is lower, but I don't know. Nonetheless, not a good rating for Dynamite. If we look at the year-over-year comparisons, this week was lower than the same week of 2020. Still better than 2021. These year-over-year comparisons, of course, are being compared to years in which AEW was going head-to-head with NXT. That's the total viewership chart. What about the demo? Well, almost an exact tie with what Dynamite did in the same week in the prior 2 years. Just over 400,000. Again, comparing it to 2 years in the past where AEW was running head-to-head with NXT on Wednesday night. How about this chart? This blue and red chart comparing Raw to SmackDown. We're not registering any Raw data because I've excluded preemptions here. But here's SmackDown. Seems to be on a slight downward trend. The long and short summary that I would apply to this is that these, Raw and SmackDown are holding pretty steady in terms of their margin over Dynamite lately, which obviously has diminished since the debut of Dynamite, which is what's illustrated in this chart entirely. That's Dynamite, I guess. Again, if you have any questions, you can throw a super chat in. We can go over what happened with Raw and Syfy, Raw on Syfy did substantially better than it did last week. Both Raw and NXT preempted because of the Olympics. Looks like it took viewers a while to realize that Raw was on a different channel last week. The quarter hours did not show as much of a lag of tune-in, probably is what's being represented here, where we have about 1.6 million viewers to start, which in the following quarter immediately jumps to just over 1.7 million viewers. The demo increasing also. So the first hour again was ad break free, as it was last week. The third hour, it's interesting to see. I rarely get quarter hours for Raw, but here they are. It's interesting to see this broken up into a little bit more granularity, just what the third hour looks like in terms of quarter hours, where we don't see a ton of movement here. We do see some growth as the gauntlet, the women's gauntlet, was coming to its conclusion. We do see some growth in total viewership and some growth in the demo, and actually it is the peak of the demo with 636,000 viewers. To tell you what that is as a demo rating, we will do live on-air math, and that's a 0.49. A 0.49 in the demo is where Raw peaked on the quarters, and that is 0.49 where it did a 0.44 overall average. So, as you can see in the third hour, it really bottoms out once you hit the 10 o'clock hour there. Is there any other growth? We've got growth back here across these three quarters in terms of total viewership, and from this quarter to this quarter, which the third quarter, just before the growth happens, is a Kevin Owens promo, AJ Styles versus Damian Priest, and Alexa Bliss in another therapy segment. Viewership grows for Omos in a handicap match versus Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, and then the live promo in that same quarter between Becky Lynch and Lita, I believe a contract signing. And then this gauntlet grows total viewership again. Demo goes down a bit, and the viewership sinks for the early part of the gauntlet, but then recovers towards the top of the second hour. So that's the Raw quarters. Are we looking at the preemption here? I think the preemption is included here. And we can see that Raw is on Syfy doing almost what it did in terms of total viewership last year at this time on the same week. So I don't read a ton into this. This was Raw in its second of 2 weeks on Syfy. We'll be back on the USA Network next week as WrestleMania gets closer. Usually Q1, we talked about this several weeks ago. Q1 is almost always a stronger quarter for ratings than the Q4 that it follows. So I would look for Raw ratings to continue to do fairly well as WrestleMania draws near. That's Raw. We can jump to NXT, or NXT with its special Vengeance Day episode. This is old, right? I'm pretty sure this is, maybe it's not old, in fact. No, it's not old. This is correct. 525,000 viewers, much better than the 400,000 that it did last week on Syfy, which we can see here. Not 500, as I incorrectly tweeted yesterday. Much better in terms of total viewership, better in the demo. Last week doing a 0.07, this week doing a 0.11. I don't have quarters for NXT, but NXT doing better on Syfy for this peak sort of TV special like episode. SmackDown and Rampage. SmackDown did 2.23 million viewers, which is on the high end for what it's been doing lately. 0.56 in the demo. How does that compare year over year? It's a little bit lower lately is what SmackDown's been doing, but this week definitely better than the 2 million viewers it did on the same week last year. I wonder why that was. I can't think of a reason why SmackDown would have done an especially low number of 2 million viewers in what would be mid-February. The demo just below what it was last year. So SmackDown doing pretty well. Rampage had its lowest demo number since way back on the New Year's Eve episode, which was an exceptionally low episode. Total viewership was relatively strong, though 549,000 viewers. The median age viewer, by the way, was I believe the oldest it's ever been for Rampage, 50.3, which is exactly the same as it was last night for Dynamite. And if we look at that median age chart again, which I have to scroll back up to find, it's up here. And the median age for Rampage is trending upwards also, really in line with what Dynamite has been doing, as we discussed a minute ago. So what does that mean? The demo, I've theorized, and I pretty strongly believe that it's the older viewers who are the most consistent viewers. The numbers strongly suggest that. It could be different old people switching in and out every week to hold that number nice and steady, but that seems unlikely. It's the younger viewers who check in at certain times for whatever reason and check out when they don't feel like it's as important to watch. Thus, when CM Punk debuts on Rampage, huge 18 to 34 tune-in. That isn't normally there. And at other peak ratings, really driven by the younger viewers who seem to pick and choose when they watch. Let's see here. And actually, what other point can we point out about the Rampage number? I think I have it here. And this is this up to date? It looks like it. I'll just refresh this to make sure. The text will get smaller, but we can see here, signified by the pink cells here in this table, that despite being on Syfy, NXT still, as it normally does, has a larger, not total audience. Rampage just barely edged it out. I know you can probably barely see that, but Rampage just barely edged out the NXT total audience average by 5%. But even on Syfy, NXT, with a healthy margin of viewers, P50 plus, ahead of Rampage by 33%. A 33% edge for NXT compared to Rampage in was that the same week? Well, this is the most recent NXT on Tuesday versus the Friday Rampage. So not the same week, but it's Thursday. So this is what we have. There's that. Do we have, is this the new one? Yes. Did you know the gauge? The gauge is out. The Nielsen gauge showing that streaming, I believe, has just hit an all-time high. But streaming still, despite hitting an all-time high, only 29% of all TV time, all time, that Americans, United Statesians, spend in front of the television. Only 29% of that time is streaming. I believe in their video, there's an executive from Nielsen who narrates the latest the gauge update, which is what this graphic is a part of. And he says that the two NFL conference finals games accumulated more television time consumption in those two games alone than the most watched streaming show did all year. Maybe that's like Squid Game or something. I don't know. So broadcast and cable, still a monster, although it is in decline. And that's where the vast majority of the TV money still is, at least in wrestling. So there's those things. I don't know if I have a lot more to add. How is broadcast so big? It's a lot of old people watching it, for one thing. And we've discussed this at other times too. So this is the September data that I've got here. And this is a total viewership where it looks very similar probably to what it is in January. This is September. But if we, it's let's focus on streaming, because broadcast and cable we have to do some mental math to figure that out. But the streaming probably contrasts it well enough. 28% streaming if we're looking at the total population above age 2. If you go to P50, it's only 17%, so the streaming number, as you would expect, is even lower. Older people not streaming as much. Still streaming some if you're over the age of 50. About 17% of the time you spend in front of the TV is streaming. Let's go to kids, though. Almost half of their time is streaming, but they're still, maybe it's with, I would be curious, is it with older adults that they're spending most of this 10 and 21% in front of linear TV? Young adults and the younger half of the key demo, 46% streaming. So again, almost half of their streaming time. But still 12 plus 24, that's 36, I think. More than a third of their time, more than a third of their TV time is spent in front of the old-fashioned tube. But this is declining over time. Here's US pay TV subscribers. I'm doing an impromptu media class here. That's the decline of TV generally. This is from the Lechtman Research Group that publishes, I think they're just going through the SEC filings of the publicly traded cable companies and satellite companies and counting up the pay TV subscriptions. But nonetheless, these programs, I mean, this is not up to date for this week, but this is up to date as of 2021, the entire year. These programs are still ranking pretty strongly. But that's all. That's all I've really got for this week. Don't forget to go into the Post Wrestling Discord, the Wrestlenomics channel, where you can play the Wrestlenomics ratings game and predict the Dynamite 18-49 demo rating. I don't think there were any winners this week. This is not an up-to-date chart, but I think Big Phil Combo is still number one. I'm still number two. I don't know that anybody predicted a .31 in the demo. But you can play that game in the Post Wrestling Discord. Please hit the thumbs up. That really helps us. Share this. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you haven't read it, you can get the Post Wrestling, the Wrestlenomics Pro Wrestling Industry Report 2021. That is on the Patreon for all subscribers. That is on PayHip at this link, which is probably in the description of this video. If it's not, I'll put it in there in a minute for anybody who's watching on delay. This is here every Thursday. Live TV ratings talk. We'll be back on Sunday with Chris Gullo. And I don't know what we'll be discussing, but we'll be discussing something from a set of slides that I've yet to make. And we have merch as well. Sign up for the Patreon, patreon.com/Wrestlenomics to get my daily TV ratings reports in such a depth that there is no comparison. You get access to the big Wrestlenomics viewership spreadsheet. You get audio of this program. Audio of this program will be going to the Patreon audio feed as soon as possible. You can tweet me, but I won't read it. I'll talk to everybody next time.